In the previous video, I showed how to create a list and then add that as a new column, where I used Table.ToColumns to convert my original table into a list of lists, and then I appended the source, which was my new list. So now I have a list of lists, including the new column, and then we can use Table.FromColumns to get back to a table. However, I have type on my 3 original columns. I forgot to add type to the third column, which we can go back and fix, which is here. That should be type text. Meaning now I have type on the original 3 columns, but this added column doesn't have any type. And I hinted at the solution, which is quite complex. So what we need to do is inside of Table.FromColumns, if we just look at the documentation, it doesn't actually say it, but it says columns as any, and that any gave me a suggestion that maybe it can take a type table, which is this type table, and then square brackets column 1 equal the type, like so. And because it said columns as any, it suggested that I might be able to do it. So I want to try that. So in order to create this type table, we need to have the structure of type table, square bracket, name of column, followed by equals, followed by the type, then a comma, and then we append the rest. But first we need to get the column header and we need the type. And you can do that with Table.Schema, where I want to do that on sheets 1. This gives us a column with name and a column with type name. We then need to loop through this table and concatenate the text. And we have a function that does this, which is list_accumulate. So we'll start out by storing this in a variable just to make things a bit easier. I can then say I want to use list_accumulate. And just to make things a bit easier, I'm going to create a list, which is then going to start from 0 and go on 2. I want to do a list.count on my schema. Actually, I need table.rowCount. Because it's a table, I want to go into schema and grab the count and then say -1, meaning I have 3 rows, which means this will generate a list, which is then 0, 1, and 2, and then I can do a list lookup. My seed is going to be a string, which starts out with type table, square bracket, open. Then I want to append the column name and type to this string. And actually, no, I need to say state, current, which is my function, and now I can write. So in the first row, we want to append the state, my column name, which is then a lookup into the schema. I want to go into the name column and I want to go into the index, which is then the current value. And then I want to append the equal sign. Then I have to append the next column, which is then type name. And then I also have to append a comma. And we'll end up with an extra comma at the end, which we can deal with. But actually that should be everything. Yes, so now I have type table, square bracket, column name, type. Actually, I want a space after that comma. You don't need the space, but it makes it easier to read. And then this isn't everything, but we're just going to call this initial text because we're going to do a lot of fancy stuff. So making more steps is a good idea. We need to get rid of that comma space, which conveniently we can just say, actually, I can't use trim, I believe, because that takes a 1 character. I don't think I can do this. No, that isn't a single. Yeah, we can't do that. What we can do instead is to say use text.left. Actually, no text start. I want to go into the initial text and I want to do a count, which is then a text length of my initial text -2. And that will grab everything except for the 2 last characters. And then I can append that closing square bracket. So now we have text type, and this is actually everything we need. Then we have to use Expression.Evaluate, which will take a text string and convert that into valid M code. But actually I'm not done because I still need to append my original column. So I don't want to do this yet. We can then go back here in the original, and if we just copy that and put that here. So what I want to do is to use that final text as M code, but right now I don't have the fixed stock column. But if I copy this, and then we can append that after. We can say Expression.Evaluate, and then I want to append this. And don't worry, I'm not done because we need the second argument, but I just want to write it first. So actually, no, we can't add that square bracket yet because we need to append the new column inside of this text. So we'll say I want to use Expression.Evaluate. I want to use that text. Then I want to append my new column. So actually, I was a bit hasty when I removed this. I actually don't have to do that because we do need to add a new column. So whoops, we need initial text, which has the comma space. And we can then say Expression.Evaluate. And then we append my fixed stock. And then I need a equal sign. And what is my type? That's going to be number. And then I need the closing square brackets. And then this is going to give an error because I don't need that, but I need an extra parentheses. And it's going to get mad here because it tries to find this date type, which doesn't exist. And that I think is because date.type is a bit more complex. So what we need to do is inside of ExpressionEvaluate, we need to tell it what the environment is. And this is because you can, when you use the text list.sum, for instance, that is text. And you need to tell Power Query to interpret list.sum, the text, as the function list.sum. And we could write that here, for instance, say list.sum equals list.sum. So the text list.sum inside here should be interpreted as list.sum, the function. But we can simply write #shared because we need to use all of the existing variables, code words, functions, and so on. And that's actually everything we have to do. So it is a little bit easy actually, but I promise you this took a while to figure out behind the scenes, but it's a fairly short video. So